Harry, we get a lot of pushback in the Christian faith on whether Genesis is real, right? So, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, let's start with the time period. It goes from 4000 BC at the point of creation, creation week, to 1800 BC, where Joseph dies, and they're in the land of Egypt at that time. So, what we have in the book of Genesis, first of all, let's just quickly cover the main topics. Chapter 1 and 2, we have creation week, creation of the universe, sun, moon, and stars, plants, animals, birds, fish, and us, the people. In chapter 3, we have the story of the fall of mankind, Satan entering the scene, and where humanity was put out, Adam and Eve were put out of the Garden of Eden. In chapter 5, we have the genealogy that goes from Adam to Noah, and we touch on Enoch and others in between. So there's 10 generations there. Chapter 6 to 9, we have where sin was so bad that God decided to replace all humanity with the family of Noah, and we had the story of the flood and so on. Chapter 12, God calls Abram. Then the rest of the book is about the story of Abram, Isaac, and Jacob, and how all their details came together. So, how accurate is this book of Genesis? The Mosaic books written by Moses, as they are in the wilderness after they leave Egypt, where there's Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Moses, with the help of the Levites, where they were the God people, compiled the last four from their own personal experiences. They just wrote what they experienced, what God told them, the law that the God gave them, and so on. Genesis, though, was dictated by God, and it was perfect. And when you say, well, how do you know that? Well, there's some reasons for that. First of all, God did tell Moses to write the law and all the details. And he met with God. Moses met with God for twice, 40 days in the mountain. He had the tent of meeting where Moses would go to the tent and God would meet with him there as often as they wanted to. So there was a lot of communication, and we know twice in chapter 24 and 34 where God told of Exodus that God told Moses to write. So, but we also have an interesting chapter in Genesis called Genesis 36. Nobody will ever use that for anything because it's the genealogy of Esau, Jacob's brother. Now, these are called the Edomites, of people of Edom. And so there's about 500, and Esau was born about 500 years before Moses. They had really nothing to do with Israel, except they were a tribe living south of where their land is. But there are close to 200 names of the descendants of Esau and their wives. They matter to God. They would never matter to anybody in Israel. And that's really interesting. 200 names, all in order and all this kind of
Oh
stuff.
no.
Well, there's nobody would know that except for that creator. These people are irrelevant to us, but they're relevant to God. All the details, the years, the dates on their birth and death and so on, of all the people in those years and so on. God remembers, and all that is just perfect. Now, there might be a comma in the wrong place after 3,500 years, but there might be the odd verse that would have a word missing or not. But it's the most accurate
Mm.
book in the world ever written. It was written 3,500 years ago and has all the details of truth. You know, the truth of our history, the truth of everything, the truth of science, how things were made. We know that accurately, and everything, and how sin started, how humanity started, what Jesus' role was. Jesus was there at creation, as we read in the first verses of the Gospel of John. Uh, and science, if it wants to be honest, a young Earth is the only story that actually works. Anything else is not possible. Can you imagine God waiting 6 billion years until man showed up from somewhere? Give me a break. He was there. God made everything. We have the story. And what a thrill, what a privilege. And we can be proud of that. It is our story, the story that God gave us to work from. It's, to me, it's perfect. It's beautiful. This is not what I couldn't give you this lecture a year or two ago. It's all come clear to me now. But this took me many, many years, not because of any wisdom on my part. Finally, the pieces fell together. Praise God. And it's really simple. The answer is right there.
Amen. But I just have a question for you, Harry. Why do you think we do get a lot of pushbacks? Because let alone outside of the Christian faith, I've listened to many people who claim to be Christians as well, and they say that it's allegorical or, not meant to be taken literal. Why do you think that is?
Well, they're embarrassed by it because everybody's told them they're wrong. But the thing is, we have a Jesus that we believe in. We have a God that we believe in, and He gave us. He wanted us to have a book of our history, but for some reason we've been shamed into believing something different. But if you look at it and think about it and ponder it, it all makes sense. The world, I can spend an hour on all the reasons why it's the way it is, but it's beautiful how we have that information. We can be proud of it and say, buddy, we have the answers. It's right here. Everybody can have it. It's the truth. And you'll all know that someday, like it or not.
Amen. Thanks a lot for this, Harry.
Thank you.